Hello and welcome back to Guided Souls. I am your host, Katie, otherwise known as Guided Soul Katie on TikTok, and I am so excited to be back here for another episode. Before we dive in, if you are listening to this and enjoying this podcast and you haven't already, if you could take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe, that helps me out a lot, and it helps me be able to keep doing what I'm doing, which I'm absolutely loving. This week I had the absolute pleasure of sitting down with Keisha Frazier. You may know her as at Keisha the Mystic on TikTok, and we had so many wonderful, amazing things that we discussed. A big theme that you'll notice is really surrendering to the process, but a little bit more about Keisha. She considers herself to be a spiritual guide and a healer, and she offers these really amazing readings called blueprint readings, and she does it for purpose, money, and love. And what she does is she takes a combination of astrology, intuitive downloads that she's receiving, as well as accessing Akashic records. And we'll go into all that in this episode, but if you are interested in checking out some of Keisha's offerings, you can head to her TikTok and go to her link in her bio from there. I will also put it in the show notes, and yeah, check it out. I seriously gained so much wisdom from Keisha in such a short period of time, and I'm so excited to share it with you all, so I hope you enjoy. Keisha, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the pod.
Thank you, Katie. I'm really, really excited.
I'm so excited to meet you, and I was just telling you a little bit about this before we hit record, but your messages are so powerful to me, and I feel like really speak to my soul. You're so talented at what you do, and there's a number of different things that you do. So instead of me botching it, I would love to just hear in your own words, if you can explain for our listeners a little bit about who you are and the work that you do.
Yeah, so I am a spiritual guide, a healer. And it's funny because I feel the same way about describing what I do because there are so many things that's really become this multidimensional practice. But I would say the root of what I do is that I help people to expose their subconscious wounds or subconscious blockages so that they can step more fully into their purpose, into more alignment of the truth of who they are and their self-expression. And then I have just a bunch of different modalities and tools that I kind of blend together to do that. But ultimately, that's what I do.
That's really beautiful. I saw when I went to your profile on TikTok, like your thing says guiding new earth leaders into embodiment of their soul mission. And I just like got tingles all over my body when I read that. I was like, that feels really powerful because I also struggle to like define what it is that I'm doing. But that feels really beautiful. And I think a lot of us are trying to figure out what our soul mission is and why we're here. And I guess I've seen sort of your concept of a blueprint and the different types of readings that you offer. But can you explain a little bit more about what that means and like what are you actually doing when you're sitting down and having a reading or a session with someone?
So this is something that actually dropped in recently for me. Like I recently changed my bio to hone more specifically into purpose because that's where I was being guided. So I really listened to the feedback that my reality is sending me. And for a while, I've been helping people with money because that's been a big journey of mine. I've been helping people with love and self-love because that's been a big journey of mine. And I've been helping people with purpose. And recently, people have been booking readings with me and asking kind of the same question over and over, which is, I know I have these gifts and I want to share them, but I'm terrified or I don't know how. And, I just feel like there's this block here. And I kept getting that question and kept getting people coming to me with that question. And I was like, well, I can help people with this. I have such a personality of like, okay, let's go, let's do it. Let's just take the risk. Let's take the leap. And I'm like, I have the medicine for this for sure. Let me create some ways that people can work with me to get past that block. So that's kind of where it came from. And who knows, it might change. So the other thing about me is that I'm a manifestor in human design. So I give myself the permission to change my mind, to do different things, because as a manifestor, we are not meant to do the same thing forever.
Mm-hmm.
we're really meant to kind of start a movement and then be like, okay, I started that. Now I'm on to the next thing. We're the initiators of
Yeah.
things. So I give myself that kind of leeway. But right now, the message has come through so strongly to help people with that. And how I am doing it right now, I've crafted a one-on-one offer, which is really guiding people through understanding what their gifts are, feeling more confident in their gifts, and then also having the confidence to start sharing what their gifts are and to literally begin building a business around what it is that they want to offer, how it is that they want to serve. And it's really coming from this place of service. This is a huge lesson I've had to learn. I started my business 5 years ago, and I really had to learn to let go of the need for achievement and success and making money through my business, right? And to surrender all of that to the path of I'm here to serve. I have this mission and I am being called, and that's it. That's all I need to focus on. Everything else works itself out. So that's kind of the framework of what I am hoping to teach people and guide people through.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. And it's funny you bring up human design. I'm obsessed with human design, and it like seriously changed my life this summer. Because I thought if you would have read the descriptions of the different types to me, I would have been like, oh, 100% I'm a manifester. Like, yeah, absolutely. I'm a manifesting generator. And so it's like I hit these brick walls and I was just trying to like run through them, and it was not working for me. So I have a whole other episode on human design, but this I feel like this is a sign for somebody to go look up their chart because it's definitely
It's so
life
validating.
changing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess talking more about money, because I do know that that's a concept that a lot of people struggle with, and something that I've struggled with too in launching my own business and having it be focused on spirituality and serving. It's like I know this is what I'm meant to do, and then also there's like the real life pressures of, yeah, but I have bills to pay, I have a mortgage, and it's like how do you balance that and keep going where your heart is being led when you live in a 3D world that just inherently requires you to have money to survive?
Great question. This is a main lesson that I have been learning in this lifetime, and I've been learning it through experience. And so for me, my money journey didn't start until, like, I started my business in 2018, but my money journey didn't start until 2020 when I decided to go full time in my business.
Mhm.
And so it wasn't until then that all of the fears started cropping up and the scarcity. And I was just like, where is this even coming from? So since then, I have been on this like feast and famine journey, this just holding on for dear life. Am I going to make it? Am I going to make it? Am I going to make it? And through that process, I have taken so many big risks with money. I, invested in coaching. I invested in services for my business on credit cards. I racked up a lot of debt. I will say that most of those big purchases were intuitively guided for me.
Mhm.
They were intuitively guided risks, and they were pretty clear intuitively guided risks. But I'm saying all this to say that like I was led on this kind of scavenger hunt, so to speak, journey with money, where I was intuitively guided to take these risks, to go into debt, to be full time in my business, to like not really have anything to fall back on, and just feel all of the fears that that brought up for me.
Mhm.
Through that process, what I saw time and time again, since I went full time until now, honestly, is that I would have those scarcity moments and I would be like, is this going to be enough? Can I do this? Is this going to work? And every time, once I moved through the shadow of that within my own subconscious, money would come in.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
literally almost immediately, I would get a sale or there would be
Yeah.
some kind of sign that like you're supported. It's okay. But I had to show up and do the subconscious work before my reality would shift to match that. And so something else that happened on this journey for me was I went into all of that debt, intuitively guided debt. And the whole time I was asking my guides, like, so what's the plan here? Because it just kept piling up. And it was credit card debt. It's not like, high interest. And I was like, so what are we doing? And they showed me an image of a Hail Mary in football where it's like the end of the game. It looks like it's not going to happen. They throw it all the way down the field and like get the touchdown and win. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to have some sort of Hail Mary experience with this debt that I'm accumulating. So I'm going to keep trusting it. And it got to the point where I was like just so fearful. I was like, I just don't see how this is going to happen. I don't know if I can keep up with the payments. What am I supposed to do? And the guidance was file for bankruptcy. And I, mentally would look at that as I'm such a failure, right? I absolutely failed at building this business. Like my parents are going to be so upset because they are Venus and Capricorn parents, if anybody knows astrology. And they were very upset. That was the whole thing to move through. But the point of me having to do that was to fail in 3D terms.
Yeah.
And to witness everything that brought up in me and to realize that it's not the end of the world and that I am going to survive and that it's actually not failure. So I'm telling you all of this because what I have seen in my journey is that the 3D actually doesn't matter. That's the lesson I have been learning repeatedly through money. And it is about us learning to expand into that full conviction and belief that the 3D is not actually real. I know people get upset when we say that, but it's true. It's true. So the more that you do the subconscious work and you clear, the more that you see that this is all an illusion and you are actually in control of it. So anyway, last thing I'll say, I know I've been talking for a long time. So passionate about this though. The last thing I'll say about the bankruptcy thing is I filed for bankruptcy in July. And since then I have moved into a dream apartment. I'm subletting, but still it's a dream apartment in LA. And last month I had my best month in business ever, 13.4K month, which was very exciting for me. Yeah. And so it was just a testament to me that like, the bankruptcy it means something in the 3D, but it doesn't mean anything if you are in control of your energy and you understand the power of your own energy.
Wow. That is so incredibly powerful. And it's just like a wake up call to me too. It's like, I have a lot of savings built up that I don't want to touch. And one thing that Spirit has been guiding me to is like, hey, you have these for a reason. Like, the rainy day you were saving up for, like it's here. So we're going to use it, And it's like they really took you to like the brink. And I feel like so many other people would have panicked and ran away. And because you just stayed with it and believed in yourself and believed in the guidance that you were being given, now you had the best month in sales that you've ever had, which is incredible. So I think that that's a really beautiful lesson. And it's also like when you were filing for like that was July of this year.
Yeah.
I was watching your videos and being inspired by you. So it's like you were still doing what you were being called to do, which is like service and giving back to people. And you were still helping so many people. And it's clear that like, Spirit is taking care of you because you like kept going and kept doing that. So that is really beautiful.
Exactly. Yeah. It's been a journey.
Yeah. Well, kudos to you. That takes so much courage. And you're clearly coming out the other side. So that's wonderful. It seems like there's a lot in terms of, the offerings that you have that have to do with astrology and birth charts. So how does that play into what you do?
I love astrology. I'm obsessed with it. It is such a permission slip, astrology, for us to be who we naturally have always felt we are. Mm. And for a lot of people looking at parts of your birth chart, it's like, oh, it's just like this lifetime of confusion just gets cleared up by looking at your birth chart. And we get conditioned out of our natural way of being. So it's so helpful to see it and be like, oh, I'm supposed to be like this, right? Human design is very similar in that way. And I think astrology is also so beautiful because it just shows how unique each of us is. Like we are each a thumbprint of consciousness, and every thumbprint is so drastically different. So it's like incorporating astrology into my work has been so powerful because I can look at my clients and I can understand that I can't give them all the same advice because they're different thumbprints. They have different lessons to learn. And so I can look at their chart and I can understand the lessons that they have to learn, and I can kind of guide from that place. I think astrology also, it gives us, so I use astrology specifically for helping people understand their money blueprint, their love blueprint, and their purpose blueprint. And so it helps to add confidence to the things that we naturally are good at as well. So there's parts in our chart where it's like, I didn't know I was supposed to embody these energies, but I felt like I was, or I did in the past, and then I stopped. And then there's parts of your chart where it's like, oh yeah, I am good at that. Like I didn't even realize that was a gift. I just do that naturally. So I really love helping people to see the brilliance that they just naturally inherently have. And then I also love using astrology for helping people understand their shadows.
Yeah.
And astrology helps us to know that it's there for a reason, and that it's a level up opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to expand our consciousness, right? We get these malefic planets like Saturn and Mars or Chiron, and we think like, oh my God, it's just the end of the world because these planets are so hard, or, causing so much drama in our life, or even when retrogrades happen, the retrograde conversation. But it's like, no, this is, yeah, it's challenging, and it's an opportunity to go into your depths and reclaim some power that was lost. So it's a beautiful thing. I could go on, but I love it.
Yeah, no, I love that. So when you're sitting down with someone, you're taking a, say if you're helping them with their life purpose, you're using a combination of their birth chart, intuitive downloads that you're receiving, and then also maybe their Akashic records, or what's like the combination of things that you're using to then help them figure out their soul mission.
Everything you just stated. Yeah. So I go through their chart. As an astrologer, I really emphasize embodied astrology, which is feeling the energy of the planets like in my body. So I work with the planets and I have relationships with the planets, and I kind of understand the frequency of the planets rather than just kind of spitting out facts that I've memorized. It's a very felt, intuitive sense of like Venus. Okay, I see you're here in Leo in this person's chart. What do you want to tell me about your expression in this person's life?
Right.
So I really view it from that point. That's where the intuition comes through. And then connecting to the Akashic records as well really helps me to bring life to the chart. So last week I did a reading for someone, and I'll get like these visions of different archetypes, and they'll show me movie characters or something to help the person understand what the energetic expression of this placement could look like in the real world, to have that connection to the energy rather than just like, okay, here are some characteristics of the placement, which is helpful, but feeling it in your body and having that like deep inner understanding of it is so powerful.
That's really cool. I've never heard I guess I haven't really talked to many astrologers one on one, but I've never heard it be explained that way, of like feeling the energy of the planets within you, because technically anyone could learn astrology, although it is way harder than people think. I have tried to like get into it, and I have learned some stuff, but I have a lot of respect for individuals that, really are astrologers. But it's really cool that then you're able to take it to that next level and really feel that energy. And like you said, not just regurgitate facts, because each person is different and they're going to have different connections to different planets. So I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah. And I think that piece of it would be helpful for everybody who feels overwhelmed with astrology, because it is very there's like, you're never going to know everything about astrology, period. There's always going to be something new to learn, but everybody can feel, you're right, everyone can learn astrology and everyone can feel and connect with the planets.
Mm-hmm.
So you could even just start one by, like start with your sun sign. Maybe you know that one the best, so you don't need to start there, but start wherever you want. Sun, moon, Venus, pick one solitary placement, even though the rest of the chart is important, but just to not bite off more than you can chew and not overwhelm yourself, pick one placement and sit and meditate with your Venus placement. Like Venus in whatever sign, just stop there. Don't even worry about the house. Venus in Leo, Venus in Pisces, wherever your Venus is, set a timer for 10 minutes and just ask Venus to show you her expression in your chart and feel it.
So cool. I
Yeah.
absolutely love that. So, a lot of times I feel like there are things happening cosmically in transits that I should be paying attention to because I feel like that energy is affecting me every day. But there's so many different places to look for that and like contradicting information. So, for someone who is not an astrologer that just kind of wants to stay up to date on what's happening and how it's affecting them, do you have any tips of like where to go, or is that more something that you should feel intuitively? Like how would someone who's not an astrologer go about that?
That one's a little trickier because you will have to have kind of a library of knowledge of the different energies of the planets in total
Yeah.
to be able to look at your transits and kind of like let your eyes go to, okay, it's this,
Yeah.
right? Because when I'm feeling something, I'll pull up my chart and I'll just kind of look at it and like something just clicks and I'm like, okay, this is what's happening
Right.
inside of me right now. So I would say that that understanding will more likely come with time of you understanding all of the planets and their energies, because really it's the planets that once you understand like the frequency of the planets, you'll feel that as the lesson within your body. So for example, Saturn is a great example to use for this, because Saturn lessons have a, I mean, all planet lessons have a specific frequency, but Saturn, it's like you know a Saturn lesson. And if you're new to astrology and you don't know a Saturn lessons feel like the same thing over and over again. It's hard. You're like, why can't I get past this? Why am I still here? And it's like, you may have mastered it, but Saturn's like, no, keep going, just keep going until I'm done.
Yeah.
And so you start to feel that in your life, and then you look at your chart and you look at where Saturn is, and it maybe connects. So
Yeah.
that's really my best piece of advice on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if you're just trying to learn astrology and learn your chart, kind of like you said, just take it one sign, one planet at a time and like meditate on that, try and fully understand that and build it from there.
Exactly. Because the thing about astrology that I've heard others say, including myself, about learning it, and this is how I learned as well, is you start with what you feel ready to start with, like where your interest is, follow your excitement.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there will be more information that kind of floats in your awareness, and you'll be like, no, I'm not ready for that. That just is too much.
Yeah.
You'll feel that. And so you just stop where you are. And then eventually you'll start to digest the information you started with. And then you'll be like, okay, I think I'm ready to learn about houses now.
Yeah.
And it's just adding layers every single time onto your knowledge.
Very cool. I love that. Yeah, that's I'm not typically a person that stops once I feel overwhelmed or so. That's really great advice. To just like if it feels like, oh my gosh, this is too much, just walk away, come back. It'll still be there for you whenever you're ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I am very new to the concept of Akashic records. So can you explain a little bit more about what that is and how you utilize them and access them?
Yeah. So for me, I'm clairsentient. So a lot of how I relate to things is how they feel in my body.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, the Akashic records is a frequency that I tap into personally. It's also considered like the library of your soul. And I've also heard it described as really just accessing the quantum realm. To me, it is a higher consciousness frequency that we are able to access that holds key information about your soul and your soul's evolution in this lifetime.
Mm.
So everyone kind of has a different relationship with the records, or different readers have different relationships with the records. Some readers can go in and they can pull out whatever information they want. I don't personally have that experience with the records. I have the experience of, this is what your soul needs to know right now to evolve.
Yeah.
And if it's not going to help your evolution, or if it's going to hinder your evolution, you don't need to know that information right now, even if it's available, because all information is available in the quantum. If it's not going to help you, we're not going to bring it down.
Mm-hmm.
Through me anyway.
Right.
But I love the Akashic records for that. Actually, I love that because it's like this very advanced frequency of information that I often find doesn't make sense to people right away. All of it, like readings I'll do, and even my own readings, which are also for me, for those wondering, even my own readings, I'll come back to them months later and be like, oh,
yeah, that's what that meant.
Yeah. And people tell me that time and time again, like, I rewatched the recording and I wasn't ready to receive what you said. And like, I watched it 6 months later and it was clicking so much more. So it's like, it's your it's like the frequency of your higher self, the codes of your higher self wisdom coming through, and your current human self might not always be ready to receive it, but it's still hitting you where it needs to, like in your subconscious. It's still hitting and activating parts of you that are going to bring you toward that vision.
Right.
That makes sense.
Right. It does. Yeah. It is, if you're like me and you're first learning about it, I feel like it is kind of a difficult concept to wrap your brain around. But I think the way that you just explained it definitely helps break it down, especially for people who are new to it. Is part of it accessing information about past lives, or is that something that's totally different?
It can be. So it is said to be past, current reality, future timelines, and future options. Just it's like everything. But again, my experience has been like, people will come to me and just be like, what are my past lives? And I'm not able to channel that way.
Yeah.
When I connect to the records. It's like, it's going to be, here's a past life that relates to what you're currently experiencing that's going to help with your evolution. I can't just open the records and pull out whatever.
Right.
Personally.
Right. Yeah. No, that is interesting. And I think it's probably something that a lot of people who don't channel or don't channel for other people don't understand. Because a lot of what I do will be like delivering messages from spirit guides and your spirit team. And a lot of people want to know like the names of their spirit guides and how many there are. And there are readers who can do that. And they're very good at that. And I'm like, I cannot do that, but I can deliver the message with a lot of clarity. It's like, but
Yes.
I can't tell you who is giving it to me unless it's like a past loved one, which is something different. But yeah, it's probably something a lot of people don't realize until they're in a reading. And it's like, oh, everybody has different ways of doing this and different availabilities, different strengths, and different things that we're just not meant to access, at least right now. It could evolve over time, but yeah.
100%. I have the same thing, by the way. I don't get names. I get what they're helping you with. You want to hear that?
Right. Yeah. Amazing. Well, I guess in terms of helping people discover their soul mission and their purpose, which it seems like you're really being guided to right now, how does that, I don't know if manifest is the right word, but if we're meant to do many different things in this lifetime and it's meant to maybe express itself in many different ways, are you kind of finding the overall purpose and then the person throughout their lifetime kind of figures out how they want to embody that and carry that out? Or what's like the end outcome of helping someone find their soul purpose or their soul mission?
So with the purpose blueprint readings, it is more so your like the overall themes of your purpose. Like, what are you going to be helping humanity with?
Yeah.
And then I can also see in your chart some possible ways of expressing that. But that part is going to be up to the person to follow the breadcrumbs of what it's actually going to look like. I can't
Right.
say this is exactly what it's going to look like. I
Yeah.
just can't. I can give examples, and like I said, like they'll show me movies or characters and just different things that will kind of help you understand the frequency of it.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, the journey to what exactly it's going to look like is part of your evolution, I've
Right.
found.
Right.
So that part actually doesn't matter.
Right.
It actually doesn't matter, the details. It is the frequency that you want to connect with.
Yeah.
And when you connect with that frequency as a meditation, as a visualization every single day, you will be intuitively brought to the lessons, the people, the experiences, like the challenges
Mm-hmm.
that you need to be prepared for what the expression will look like,
Yeah.
and to be guided directly into what the expression will look like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The reason I'm saying this is because that's been my personal journey.
Yeah.
You know, I worked in corporate my first job out of college from 2010 to 2012, and then I left that. I didn't really know where I was going. So that's been like 11 years of me just following my intuition and being
Yeah.
like, okay, I'll go over here next, and then I'll
Yeah.
go over here. I didn't know what the ultimate expression was. And it didn't matter because I was guided every step of the way just by following what felt right in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. And I guess, like, for you personally, it may be difficult to put into words, but what do you see your purpose or your mission in this lifetime to be?
So right now it's very big around self-worth and
Mm.
helping people reclaim their power,
Yeah.
helping
Yeah.
people understand that any system or person or organization, whatever, that you feel has power over you actually doesn't.
Mm.
And this includes like the government, money. It's like you from within. And this is where the subconscious, like deep subconscious work comes through. And I'm not just talking about like mind reprogramming.
Mm.
The subconscious work that really moves the needle, quote unquote, is the deep, like subconscious emotional release,
Mm.
which is a lot of what I do and help people do. That's where you reclaim your power, is through clearing those stuck and stored emotions that
Mm.
a lot of them are hidden in your subconscious and you might not know that they're there,
Yeah.
myself included. I'm guilty of having deep subconscious emotions and being like, I'm fine. I healed that. And then
Right.
lo and behold.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's funny you say that. One of the big catalyst moments for me was I met with a medium in 2022, and then was guided to like do a coaching program with her where she, looked at the different underlying beliefs and kind of removed them. And I remembered in our first session, she was really focusing on like, do I actually feel worthy of love? Do I have self-love? And I'm like, yeah, like I didn't used to, but I'm like done with that. Like I moved on. And then there was like one moment where it just like really struck a chord and I'm just bawling and I'm like, oh my gosh, this was still there. And truly from that moment, it like opened up a whole new world for me. So I just want to validate that just removing those blocks can be so much bigger than like actually receiving a new piece of information, because it's like the information was always there. It's just like the block is holding it back. So that's very powerful work that you're doing.
Yes, absolutely. And it's so freeing. Like
Mm,
when you have that emotional
yes.
release and that realization, and everything starts just clicking inside. And that's when you start to realize how powerful you are also.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I love
That's
that.
beautiful. Um, you may not know this off the top of your head, but I'm just curious if you're like in human design, there's like that the cross or your incarnation cross or whatever.
Mhm.
Does what that say for you line up with what you feel like your soul mission is, at least right now?
I would have to go back, and
Okay.
that's the one part. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
no,
don't
that's
have
totally
that.
fine.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. Like
Does
I'll
yours?
uh I think so, but I like to your point of not really having things being understanding it the first time
Mhm.
is like I figure when I first read it, mine is I can't it's like right angle cross of Eden or something like that, but it's like helping people fall back in love with life.
Mm.
And when I read it, I was like, that doesn't really sound like me. Like, I feel like what I'm here to do is like bigger and like more justice focused and all this kind of stuff. And like as time has gone on, I realize like I just gravitate towards like love and wanting people to feel love and finding, the joy in life. So it's interesting that I didn't originally resonate with that, but as time
Mhm.
has gone on, I'm like, yeah, that is kind of what I'm doing.
Exactly. I feel that from your videos. I just want to say, like when you said that, I
Oh,
was like, yeah.
thank
Again, the
you.
frequency, I feel
Yeah,
that from
yeah.
you. And I think also that what you're describing is why we don't get the details until we're ready often.
Right. Yeah.
Because, well, I mean, or you get the details, but you're like, what?
Yeah.
But you have to be brought through everything you need to go through to be like, oh, yeah,
Right.
this is right.
Right.
Yeah.
And like for me personally, I had to learn how to fall in love with my own life before I can spread that to others. So I think part of it was like, I didn't feel like that myself. So how the heck am I supposed to help other people do that? And now that I've like made changes in my life that I can genuinely wake up and say, like, I'm living my life exactly how I want to be living it,
Mhm.
then that can kind of like exude out to other people.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I have a listener email for us and would love for you to help me answer it if you're up for it.
Let's do it.
Okay. Awesome. It says, I sometimes get information about who I was or what I was doing in a past life, but I don't know what to do with that information. Is it supposed to be helping me and my current circumstances? It seems like whenever I try and ask for more information, it doesn't come. It's only when I'm not asking that it comes in. How do I know if it is real or if I'm just making it up? Any advice on how to navigate this?
I take, if you couldn't tell from everything we've talked about so far, I take a very feminine, energetic perspective to things.
Mm.
And with this question, I think the main thing that I laser in on is the fact that you said the answers come when I'm not asking.
Mm.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so maybe that is to me, I would take that as a sign that I don't need to figure it out.
Mm.
And this is coming from, like, again, my perspective with, not to go back to astrology, but I have the North Node in Pisces in the
Mm.
eighth house, which means my South Node is in Virgo in the second house. And just the lesson of that for me is that I don't need to spend so much time trying to figure things out.
Mm.
So I really have had to learn just like surrender and trusting that the answers will come when they need to. So that would be my first piece of advice, is like, it just feels very clear that you don't need to know everything about this right now.
Mhm.
The second piece that I feel from this is that when you are receiving these visions or this information, it is it's still activating something within you, even if you're not understanding what's happening.
Mhm.
So again, another reason why you don't need to have that mental understanding of it right now. And then the third piece to me is you can also just allow yourself to sit with what came through.
Mm.
Because I think for a lot of us, when we're receiving through our intuitive gifts, we don't give enough space for the information to like percolate and expand. We just receive something and then we're like, oh, what's next? What's next? And we maybe sit there for a minute and it's like nothing came. Okay. And it's like, well, maybe you need to sit there for 10 minutes. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to kind of just like let yourself relax, let go of the expectation that there needs to be an answer, and just feel, again, feel the frequency of what that information was and let it talk to you.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, it feels and sounds like a lot of patience and just like releasing any expectation of what it should mean or does mean. And yeah, I really like I feel like even for when I'm channeling for myself, a lot of times I'll get a download and be like, sweet, and just like keep going with my day. So I think that that's like really good advice, is like, no matter what it is, just like sit with it, because there may be more that comes out. There may not be. That might be it, but it might, just need a little bit more time to integrate with you. So I love that. I do get this question a lot, and I feel like sometimes I do it too, is like with any intuitive information that you're getting, any downloads, whether it be about past lives or otherwise, a lot of people say, like, how do I know if it's actually real or if I'm just making it up? Like, do you have any advice for people to distinguish that or to help them believe in the information that they're receiving?
It's normal to feel that way first, just like validating yourself that that's just kind of part of, because our intuition and our imagination are very closely linked.
Mm-hmm.
If not, some people might argue the same thing.
Mm.
So that feeling of I'm making it up is just a very natural part of tapping into this part of yourself. But what I would recommend is to record what's coming through, because this has been such a huge validation point for me of just posting my messages to TikTok and a lot of my messages also being for me.
Mm-hmm.
And my guides will literally, like, someone will like a message from months ago and I know it's my guides being like, hey, watch this one, rewatch this one.
Oh, cool.
And I'll watch it and I'll be like, that's what's happening right now. And, it's just this confirmation of like, oh yeah, you are psychic.
Yeah.
You're getting it right. You're doing it. So yeah, record what's coming through and like revisit what you wrote down and see the validation of it in your life. And that's just going to help you to build that confidence. But at the end of the day, I also feel like you can't get it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you have enough faith and trust in God, source, universe, and being divinely supported,
Mm-hmm.
even if you misinterpreted something, you're going to be redirected.
Right. Right.
So just kind of surrendering to the path from there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I really like that. And for me personally, I got to the point where it was less about figuring out if the information I was receiving was from the divine or if it was my own thoughts. And it was more about just separating, okay, is this an ego based thought, like a fear, or some sort of like, I don't know, human emotion based in ego, or is it something that feels really authentic to who I am and like who I am at my true core? And those are the types of things that seem to always be divinely led. And I sometimes can't tell you exactly where it comes from. Like sometimes I know it comes from my guides, sometimes I know it comes from my dad, other times it's just something that I know. And I just have to take that as it being divinely led because we are a part, like our higher self is part of our spirit team, and I think some people forget that is like there's a part of yourself that is always connected and receiving information. So that distinguishment has helped me a lot, but I also like the concept of the fact that our intuition and our imagination are very closely linked. I think that that's a really cool way of putting it and of thinking about it that I think will help a lot of people move past that mental block of, oh, am I just making this up? Or is this, a channel that I'm receiving?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think to your point about how does it feel? Like, does this feel ego based or does this feel like it's in alignment with my soul?
Mm-hmm.
Is going back to the patience thing. Like, if you're
Yeah.
not sure, then sit with that to really
Yeah.
be able to have that discernment. That's a great way to practice and hone your discernment of the
Yeah.
messages you're receiving.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that I wanted to ask you about earlier that I kind of spaced was, one of the things you said you were helping people with is developing their own spiritual gifts. How do you go about doing that? Does someone come to you and they say, hey, I think I have these gifts? Or is that something that you're uncovering together in your sessions? Like, how does that work?
So I focus more so on like the birth chart, and these are the gifts that I'm seeing in your chart,
Yeah.
and less, at least at this point, less on the development
Got
of the
it. Okay.
gifts.
Yeah.
So it's like, here's, and the gifts that I'm seeing in the chart, like, yeah, I'll tell people if they have like psychic placements and they should explore developing their spiritual gifts. But a lot of the gifts I see are just like they communicate in this really beautiful way. And this is very inspiring to people or something like that. Like the
Yeah.
very, very just natural parts of their being.
Yeah.
Not that intuition isn't a natural part of our being. We've just been conditioned out of it. But I also help people to, I guess it's really just about bringing more confidence to that naturalness of being
Yeah.
for people, for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love that. And I think a lot of people get caught up, especially when they're on this spiritual journey and this awakening and they're tapping into these gifts that they have. I have people coming to me wanting to know what their spiritual gifts are. And it's funny that it seems like the ones that probably help us out the most are the ones that are sitting right in front of our face, like you said in your chart, or something as simple but as beautiful as the way that someone communicates. And just like a major theme that I'm getting from our conversation is just to like go with whatever comes in and have patience and sit with it. And like I've seen in a lot of your videos, this concept of chasing and not like gripping. And that's what a lot of this feels like. And I have to catch myself sometimes being like, oh, I feel like I'm like gripping onto this thing or chasing it and it's just not working. So like when someone really wants to figure something out and they can't, it means that they probably have to let go of it and just wait for the information to come to them.
Exactly. Yeah, because this journey of life, at least what I have figured out, and again, astrology comes into this because my chart is set up in a way where those are my life lessons to learn how to surrender and let go. But some people might have the flip. Some people might need to work a little harder to figure things out.
Yeah.
But for that person, they wouldn't be asking these questions, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, the people that are like asking, like, how do I figure it out?
Yeah.
Are the ones who need to let go and surrender. And there were some, I don't specifically teach people the development of their gifts right now, but if I did, I wanted to say how I would do it, or a big piece I would emphasize is the subconscious healing. Because for me, yes, you can do things to advance spiritually and advance your gifts like directly. But for me, healing through my subconscious has been the biggest pathway to advancement of my spiritual gifts, because it's literally just unblocking the parts of my intuition that I shut down when I was younger.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I love that. And I also cannot emphasize that enough of how big of an impact that has. So I think that's incredible. Well, amazing. I have a few last little questions for you before we wrap this up, if you're up for it.
let's do it.
Okay, cool. If you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
I love you. You are loved. Yeah.
Oh, I love that so much. In your darkest hours, what keeps you going?
Music, breath work, just like you see, I put my hand on my heart. So like connection to myself and my heart. That's it.
Yeah. Music is so powerful. Absolutely love it. What's something you've done recently that you are grateful to yourself for?
I think moving to LA and, taking the leap to rent this apartment, which felt like a big stretch for me, and just like deciding, it was like I'm deciding that I am stepping into a new identity.
Yeah. Oh, that's
I
beautiful.
did.
I love that. What's something where you're being a little too hard on yourself, where you want to give yourself some more grace?
I mean, the whole theme of this talk, which is why I speak so much on it, is because it is that life lesson for me. But, just not having it all figured out and not being where I thought I should be
Right.
in
That's
life.
huge.
Yeah. Although I am getting there now because I've let go of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Something that I've been struggling with is like I think especially the end of the year is like a pretty big significant marker for people. And so there's all these thoughts of like, oh, I thought I would be at this place by the end of this year going into 2024. And just recognizing like, if you're not there, it's because you're not meant to be there yet. And you may not be ever meant to be there, but if you're not going there, you're going somewhere else. And so yeah, that's like a whole thing that I struggle with every single day, and I'm sure a lot of other humans do too.
This or something better. Right?
Yes, absolutely. And then lastly, if you could give one piece of advice or words of encouragement to someone who is just starting to embark on their spiritual journey, what would it be?
You are infinitely supported. The only reason it gets hard or scary is when you are running from yourself.
Mm.
So when life starts lifing and you're like, I don't know what to do, the answer is to go within yourself
Yeah.
always.
That's beautiful. I love that. Well, Keisha, thank you so much. This has been an absolute pleasure. I know I have learned so much just from talking to you, and I know our listeners will as well. So, cannot thank you enough for being here today.
Thank you, Katie. It was a pleasure. Love your podcast.
Thank
Keep
you.
doing what you're doing because you're a light to this world.
Thank you so much. Right back at you. That wraps up this episode of Guided Souls. Thank you so, so much for being here with me today. Your presence and your listens on here truly mean more to me than you know. If you haven't already and you're enjoying this, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. And if you would like to send in a listener email to be read on the pod, you can email guidedsoullllc@gmail.com. You may hear your email on the podcast, and everything remains anonymous. Until next time, keep going. You are doing amazing, and I love you.